How many black friends do you have?
Oh, here we go again.
I knew you were going to ask that question, and as I was sitting trying to think about it, I realized that I'm able to quantify my white friends more than black friends because I don't have a lot of white friends. Most of my friends are people of color. They're not all black, but like my bestie in the whole world that I've been best friends with for 25 years is Palestinian.
And ladies and gentlemen, that is the only way a woke person cannot choose a black person.
You are technically correct. The best kind of correct.
By the way, do you know Romeo and Juliet? There's a new Juliet.
Why would you say that? Fix it. Why would you say that?
Romeo and Juliet play starring Tom Holland and Francesca Amewuda Rivers faces barrages of racial abuse. The producer of London Productions said that the hateful online comments following the casting news needed to stop. It's not that you can have a black actress, it's just you didn't choose a generally beautiful black woman. And that's what people think, whoa, you want somebody to die for her? It doesn't generally make sense. But I get your point. You need to push the narrative.
This is your captain speaking, but never like this.
I'll stop, and we'll fly the airplane. Don't worry, I'm going to let my co-pilot fly it. He's a man. Okay?
It's a total meltdown. The pilot boarded in her street clothes and addressed the passengers over the intercom. Passenger Pam O'Neill couldn't believe what was happening.
She said, let's take a vote. How many of you would like to take off now with me dressed as I am, or would you prefer that I take 10 minutes to get changed into my cute little uniform? Then she started talking about her divorce.
Oh.
And political candidates, and the minute she mentioned that, a gentleman stood up and just yelled, whoa, enough, you're scaring me.
Another passenger, Randy Reese, got up to leave and gave a running commentary on social media. Pilot also insulted a couple on board.
Did I offend you? Okay, so did I purposely offend you? I did. The answer is yes. Flight attendants, please disarm doors.
After 20 passengers insisted on getting off the United Airlines flight, the pilot quietly left the aircraft.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
If she thinks I don't think she can fly a plane because she's not a man and she's not dressed in a uniform, I don't need her to fly the plane. You don't believe I can fly the plane? I'll come in, I'll crash it. Hold up. I don't want anybody to fly the plane that want to justify a reaction. By the way, Greta Thunderbird got arrested in the Netherlands.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
Teenagers.
When you're killing 30,000 innocent civilians in response to something that killed 1,200 innocent civilians, and you're continuing to bomb an area into oblivion, that is at least the steps of genocide or a form of genocide.
So when you say 30,000 civilians, it's not 30,000 civilians that have been killed, though.
How many thousands have been killed?
So according to Gaza Health Ministry, which is run by Hamas, the number they have is 32,000, but they don't distinguish between Hamas and civilians.
How many members of Hamas are there?
40,000, something like that. I don't think the number is known, but it's tens of thousands. So Hamas says 32,000 people have been killed, civilians and soldiers. Israel says 13,000 soldiers have been killed by Israel. So let's not doubt either number. They could both be inflated, but if both of those numbers are accurate, which they may or may not be, that would be 13,000 soldiers killed, 19,000 civilians killed, which for urban combat in the Middle East is a very normal ratio. It's very distinct from genocide, because genocide is when you're trying to maximize civilian casualties. I think Israel, however imperfectly, is doing the opposite. They're trying to minimize civilian casualties.
That's interesting.
And most people would say, yeah, but that's very bad. But you're missing a point.
This is the way I would put it, succinctly. If you ask the question, what is unique about this war? What is different about this war than all other wars? It's not the civilian death toll. The ratio of combatants to civilians is, I think it's better than the American armies was when we got ISIS out of Mosul. That was like 10,000 civilians dead to kill 4,000 ISIS. This is 19,000 civilians dead to kill 13,000. What's unique about this war, unlike every other war that I could think of, is you have an army in Hamas that has perfected the art of embedding itself and meshing itself with civilians so that you cannot hit them without hitting the people around them. Other armies have done this, but none have perfected it to the extent that Hamas has. And yes, I agree with all of the absolute tragedy and suffering of the Palestinian people, but what creates that is the way Hamas fights. And either we can say one of two things. We can either say Israel doesn't have a clean shot and they have to let Hamas get away with it because it's too much to bear. But then we are essentially creating a situation where terrorists have found the perfect solution, which is that you can cross the border, go house to house slaughtering your enemies, and then hide behind your own people and they can do nothing about it. It's a perfect strategy. Can we live in a world where we allow that to be an acceptable strategy? I don't think so.
And most people that are pro-Hamas would consider that acceptable because, oh my God, something happened hundreds of years before. And I'm like, this will never end. Well, you need to understand that because I identify with them. You're not even born there. You're not even Muslim. Just like my previous video, some of them even knew better than the son of Hamas that left Hamas. 3 female teachers are charged with having sex with underage students in the same Arizona town, with one rumbled by husband finding her stash of sick love letters. And it's literally becoming an epidemic. Don't believe me? Just Google female teachers and sex abuse.
Leaving, we've got a solar eclipse. We've got the earthquake. She ran down the hallway.
The rapture is here.
The rapture's here. And then also I learned that the cicadas are coming.
Cicadas.
Cicadas.
Although I love
for the first time in like
no,
100 years.
No.
Two different. Well, this is what I read. Two different times.
Two different kinds of cicadas.
Yes, two different times are coming.
The good cicadas and the bad cicadas.
But for the first time in many years.
No, every 17 years this happens.
Well, that's not what I read, but maybe you know, maybe
well,
you know better. But
in
I
a
will
way,
say all those things together would maybe lead one to believe that, you know, either climate change exists or something is really
returning. Earthquakes are not at the mercy of climate change. It's underground.
No. It happens, and the eclipse, they've known about the eclipse coming because eclipses happen.
The fact that somebody might say, hey man, we have an eclipse, might be the cause of climate change. I'm like, okay, I don't want to call you dumb. I just want to call you unique. You're just different. It makes no... Well, you're woke.
Let's go ahead and declare an emergency for Southwest 3695. And we'd like an immediate return. We got a piece of the engine cowling hanging off, apparently.
No.
Southwest 3695, roger that. Turn left heading 190, send to Denver via radar vectors. Left turn heading 190, Southwest 3695.
If I was them, I would sue these people 100%. It can't be normal. DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. We need to put people over there. We will choose them over color, not because they can do a good job. I just want to fly a plane and I want the best of the best. If they don't have the opportunity, teach them so they can be at the same level. Do not include them. Hey man, you will learn with experience. Build the plane while it's flying.
Amazing. Get ready, people.
Algorithm, with the algorithm, you look for the issue. Popalagi neck, man.
Just to let you know, this page supports LGBTQ plus people and their rights. If you are against that, get out.
Going into telling a different story, especially on ideological news outlets and online. But the simple facts and the simple reality are right here staring us in the face, including the fact that I can safely walk my dog to the Capitol today in a way that you couldn't do when we all got here.
If you have one of those idiotic liberal friends who try to tell you that the country's safer under Biden, you're going to want to bookmark this video, because I'm going to go ahead and shit all over that. We've seen a ton of liberal creators try to claim that violent crime has gone down since Biden took office. We even had Rolling Stone write an article about it. They claim that murder has gone down 13%. They claim a 6% overall drop in violent crime, and even a 4% drop in property crime. Now here's the funny thing. If you were to just look at the numbers from Biden's DOJ, it would appear that they're right. Murder and violent crime have declined under Biden. However, there's a very good reason why those numbers have gone down. And that's because 2 years ago, the DOJ changed the way that local police departments report the crimes to the federal government. Whereas that reporting used to be mandatory, now it's optional. And since it's optional, only 44% of all police departments reported all their crimes. Another 24% partially participated, but 32% of all police agencies didn't report anything, to include the LAPD, the NYPD, Miami Police Department, Chicago Police Department, as well as DC and Baltimore. So if you were wondering why the DOJ's numbers don't seem to match up with what we're seeing in reality, it's because they don't. And here's the most embarrassing part. They haven't accounted for a single crime from the LAPD. They haven't accounted for a single crime from the NYPD. They haven't accounted for a single crime from Miami. They haven't accounted for a single crime from Baltimore or DC. And they haven't accounted for a single crime from Chicago. And they still only managed a 13% decline in murder and a 6% decline in violent crime. Imagine how much murder and violent crime has to be happening everywhere else. When you remove LA, New York, Baltimore, DC, Chicago, and Miami, the numbers only decline a tiny bit. So no, crime isn't down under Biden. And no, violent crime isn't down under Biden. The only thing that's declined is the amount of cities that they're counting. Because the Biden administration has managed to make 32% of some of the most violent cities in this country not count.
What do you want me to say? That those that count, like the brown people and the black people, that arrest them under the white name, so the statistic even changes even more? Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, you have to think about that. Something isn't right.
Don't get me wrong, makosa kita bong. Put the fire na mi blonde, kush, hash, purple, skunk, criollo, colombici, jam, jam, durloqueta, verdeta, welcome.